Good evening. My name is Karen Hughes, and I have the pleasure of being the principal here at Ridgeland High School. I would like to welcome each of you this evening. A little bit of housekeeping before you start your meeting. If anyone needs to go to the restrooms, they are located. You'll go out the theater. You can go to the right and go by the front office. There's restrooms located there. Or you can go out to your left and go down the hall past the cafeteria, and they'll be on your right. So please make yourself at home. And once again, welcome to Ridgeland High School.
Good evening. I'm David Roden. I'm with the Wilson Road Group. I want to thank y'all for coming out tonight and attending this event. What we're here tonight for is to discuss as a community the pros and cons of what Walker County will be voting on November 6th. We think it's a very important issue, and so we've asked the school to host, and they did, and we appreciate the school for letting us have this location. So in your hands, you have some 3x5 cards. If you don't have a 3x5 card, hold up your hand and we'll get you one. Judy, you've got the bags there. Okay, it's all right. Go ahead and give it to Bruce there. Bruce can give the 3x5 cards out. If you'll hold up your hands, Bruce will get you a 3x5 card. Those cards are to be used if you don't want to stand up and speak publicly, then write your question down and we will be coming around with a microphone, and then we'll ask the question for you and nobody will know where it comes from. So that's what that's for. So again, this is about our probably a dozen meetings we've had, I guess, in the community about different issues. And one thing the Wilson Road was part of, along with the Sheriff's Department, is getting this a satellite station right down the street here up on the north end of the county, and we were part of that along with the Sheriff's Department, and we're real proud of that. So we've done a couple of good things, and we think this is going to be a good discussion for the community. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Pastor Rick Kramer with the Peavine Baptist Church here in Rossville. He will lead us in opening prayer and the pledge.
Hey, y'all. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for this day. Lord, I pray your hand be on this meeting, and I pray that you be exalted. I pray that we just get out of our own way, and that, Lord, just what you want us to do here in this community, Father, let that be shown in this meeting. We love you, Lord, and in Jesus' name, amen. Y'all stand with me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Rick. So we're glad you're here tonight. My name is Damon Raines. I'm the superintendent of schools here in Walker County. I will get some business out of the way first, and then I want to talk a little bit about school business, if you don't mind. We're glad you're here. We're glad that Ridgeland was able to host this meeting. I've been part of this meeting with a couple of my colleagues since the inception, and so we have a great interest in what's going on in our community, because we feel like our schools have a positive impact on our communities as well. So let me read this, and then we'll tell you a little bit about the school. The views expressed here tonight during this public meeting do not necessarily reflect the views of the Walker County Board of Education and or the employees of the Walker County Department of Education. The information provided at tonight's meeting is for general informational purposes only. The Walker County Board of Education and the Walker County Department of Education staff make no representation of any kind during tonight's topic. Just want to get that out of the way quickly, and then I'll tell you a little bit about school business. So the graduation rates were just released. When I started here in FY13, that would have been July 1st of 2012, our graduation rate across our county was 69.4%. So we were right at 70, so that means we were, out of 10 kids, we were seeing 7 of those graduate, and so 3 out of every 10 kids, we were failing miserably. And that has nothing to do with previous administration. We were working hard, but we were still failing. As of this week, the graduation rate came back out again for the state. The state went up from 80.5 to 81.6, which that's an increase, so we're glad to see Georgia's continually moving up. Walker County went from 85.4 to 88 this year as a system. And just to highlight, Lafayette High School was at 84.53, which is almost a 5% increase. And here at Ridgeland High School, all the negative perception you hear about Ridgeland High School, walk around and talk to our kids. We've got some of the best kids you'll ever meet in your entire life. I'm telling you right now, stake my reputation on it. Their graduation rate this year was 90.8. So I'd just like to take a moment to point that out, that we are doing some amazing work, that our teachers are fabulous. Every staff member that works for us works hard every day, and they have one goal, and that is to make sure our students are being successful, they're offered opportunities, and that they have the ability to come back and work and live and play in a great community, and we're excited about being part of that. So thank you again for being here, and hopefully this will be a successful meeting. Thank you.
Good evening again. I'm Steve Wilson, the Sheriff of Walker County and one of the founding members of the Wilson Road Neighborhood Group. It's been my pleasure to work with those folks since about January of 2016, and we were able to get it off the ground running with a large meeting on March the 1st of 2016 and several other meetings thereafter, and those meetings led, as David said, into opening up the satellite office here on Wilson Road in the Rossville area, and it's been used quite frequently by our employees and by having people to meet there, and so it's got a lot of use out of it, and we haven't had to pay 1 cent of rent yet because the landlord has been very gracious about donating that to us, an in-kind donation back to the county government. With that said, it's my job tonight to represent or to introduce some of the elected officials here tonight. So if you'll just raise your hand as I call your name. We have Ted Rumley seated up here, and he is the chairman of the Dade County Board of Commissioners. Okay, right here to my right, we have Robert Goff, who is the vice chair of the Dade County Board of Commissioners. Out in the audience here, we have Representative John Deffenbaugh, District 1. Okay, John, thank you, and myself. Also tonight, Mr. Raines, who already spoke. Mr. Raines, we appreciate you being here. Also want to call your attention to Mike Cameron. To my left is the Republican Party chairman. Also out in the audience here is, or no, he's up here. I thought he was out there. Dean Kelly, who is the coordinator of the Northwest Georgia Tea Party. And then the members of the steering committee of the Wilson Road Neighborhood Group are Jim Hill. Where's Jim? Right over there. There's Jim. Bruce Coker, who's right over there. David Roden, who's right there. Damon Raines, who I spoke to you earlier, and then myself. George Rogers from the Democratic Party. Oh, okay. George Rogers from the Democratic Party. I'd asked someone if we had a Democratic representative here. So, George, we appreciate you being here on behalf of the Democratic Party. So that's good. We got representation from the Republicans, Democratic Party, and the Tea Party, all in one room. That is great and wonderful. And thank each one of you for coming out tonight. This is, whether you're for or against, or whether you vote yes or no on that ballot, it's a very important question to be answered on that ballot. And we're hoping tonight, this group that is bringing this to you, we're hoping that if you're kind of undecided, or if you're really for one way or the other, that you'll get more information, and that you'll take that information and tell it to 10 more people who will tell it to 10 more people. And the main thing is to get out the people to vote on November the 6th. We have statewide elections on the ballot. We have the question of shall we change the form of government, and we also have some other races down on the ballot. Early voting starts October the 15th, I believe, at the courthouse in Lafayette, and there may be some other satellite offices opened up as they get into that. With all that said, thank you very much, and we hope you have a great evening, and thank you for coming.
All right, real quickly, my name's Jim Hill. Thanks for being here tonight. When it comes time to ask questions, don't be bashful, okay? This is the best time when we have all of these guys up here and they cannot run, okay? Well, I know, Mike, you couldn't run if you asked you to, but that's beside the point. Now, the fellow I want to introduce to you, I have to deal with him every day, and if you said his name to a bunch of these kids out here, I guarantee you a bunch of these kids out here that go to Ridgeland High School would know this guy. He's my cohort in crime. He does middays on Hits 96 right here in Chattanooga. Mr. Jason Walker.
Good evening. My name is Jason. I raised my children in North Georgia in Catoosa County. So I have a deep love and admiration for this area, but I am not a stakeholder in Walker County, and I think that's one of the reasons why I was asked to moderate this evening. I want to begin in moderating this by going over, once again, before we discuss this with the individuals up to my left and right, the actual wording of what appears on the ballot, because this is incredibly important, not simply from the standpoint of going from a one commissioner form of government to multiple commissioners, but exactly how the wording is written on the ballot. Yes or no, up or down on the ballot, shall the governing authority of Walker County be changed from a sole commissioner form of government to a 5-member board of commissioners with the chairperson elected at large and 4 commissioners elected by district. This is why, for example, tonight it is so important that we have friends of ours that have arrived from Dade County to assist us. So it is more than just going from one commissioner to multiple commissioners, because if this measure were to pass, and I'm completely impartial on the matter, I do not live in the county, but if this were to pass, there would still be an executive figure, and the executive figure would have 4 additional sets of eyes and ears that would be added. So this is one of the things that you do need to consider in terms of not only going from one commissioner to multiple commissioners, but how that would be accomplished according to how this is written. Now, I'd like to make sure that I have everybody in order. I want to start with you, Mr. Cameron. And you have a microphone there. Could you give us a brief history of where this issue came from and why over the last 6 years it has become such an important political matter in Walker County?
I'll use that one.
Either way, this is completely informal.
Thanks again, everyone, for coming. The recent history of the Board of Commissioners in Walker County probably started around 2012 when Dr. Paul Shaw ran against Beebe High School for sole commissioner of Walker County. Dr. Shaw made this one of his top issues in his campaign against Commissioner High School. Unfortunately, he didn't win, but he came very close. And after that, the issue percolated. It percolated with the Tea Party, and then it started percolating in the Republican Party over the last, from 2012 to 2014 and into 2015. And in October 2015, the Republican Party, the county committee of the Republican Party, voted unanimously to put a question on the ballot, a straw question on the May 2016 ballot to ask if people wanted to go from a sole commissioner to a board of commissioners. And when the vote was held, 75.2% of the voters in the primary in May 2016 voted for they wanted a board of commissioners, not a sole commissioner. So after that, in fact, that question got more votes than current Commissioner Whitfield. It got more than Senator Mullis. It got more votes than a lot of other people in the county. So it was a very popular question. And one of the things that came out of that was people said, well, not a lot of people voted. Well, not exactly true, because more people voted in that primary than normally vote in a normal primary. We usually get about 3,300 people voting in a primary, and there was a lot more than that. There was several thousand more than that. So this question was one of the things that piqued people's interest and got people to the polls. Well, in October 2016, I was appointed the head of committee, and there's a number of the people here that were on this committee. We started looking at what form of government could we transition Walker County from a sole commissioner to a board of commissioners. And we spent a couple of months looking at different types of governments. And we met a couple of times. We went to Dade County, met with the Ted Rumley and some of his staff, and we came to the conclusion we did like the Dade County model, which has a chief executive or a chief head of the commission, which would be a full-time employee, plus 4 part-time commissioners. So at the end of December, we wrote up a recommendation. Mr. Kelly from the Tea Party and I took it to Steve Tarvin, the representative from Chickamauga, and he reviewed it. And then he went to the legislature in January 2017 and worked with the legislative delegation, Senator Mullis, Representative Deffenbaugh. They worked through that session with the Republican Party. We were down there, back and forth, down there several times. And in March of 2016, we took a van load of folks down there. I don't think they've ever had that before, and showed up outside of Senator Mullis's office. Then we went in and talked to the senator and both representatives about the bill and how the bill was going and what was in the bill. And in March 2016 or 17, the local act, which is a piece of legislation geared just for Walker County, passed. And so it put a referendum on the ballot to let you vote this November whether you want to stay with the sole commissioner or if you want to go to a board of commissioners. Now, the form of government, the full-time employee would be the chairman of the commission. There's 4 part-time commissioners. Those districts were drawn up by the reapportionment office of the Georgia General Assembly. They drew them up by population, and within a couple of hundred people, they're usually about 17,200 people in each district. They weren't drawn up by landmass because the Rossville district is small in landmass compared to some of the other districts, but they all have the same population. So, and then last month, the Republican Party unanimously approved backing this referendum on the ballot. Now, there's a ballot committee chaired by Dale Powell from Chickamauga with Jim Powell. They're about advocating for this. The Republican Party will advocate for this until the election, and we hope it's voted in. And a few of the reasons why we think this is important to have a board of commissioners, we want more accountability in government. We've seen in the past with a sole commissioner form of government that one person can do whatever they want, really. Also, there'll be checks and balances in this form of government. For example, in this form of government, the chairman of the commission will have a $25,000 limit on what they can spend without commission approval. Whereas right now, the commissioner could spend whatever he chooses to spend. You know, the other night on TV when we were talking about this, a lady called in and said, well, he's got a self-imposed limit, which that's true. Maybe he has a self-imposed limit, but there's nothing in the statute right now that keeps him from spending money. Whereas under a board of commissioners, if a chairman of the commission wanted to spend $300,000 on road equipment, he or she can only spend $25,000, and they would have to get approval for the rest of it from the commission. The 4 part-time commissioners will make $12,000 a year. They do not have insurance benefits. They do not have retirement benefits for the county. No money from the county will be spent on that. They can buy into that if they want to buy into it, but they would have to buy into it. It's not anything they're going to be given in the county, so that was important, not to spend money on those kind of benefits for the commissioners. They will have some incidental expenses like maybe cell phones, things like that, but those will all be accounted for, and they'll be part of an audit every year with the Board of Commissioners. So that's kind of a history, kind of a general.
Mr. Cameron, thank you. I'd like to call the sheriff of Walker County, Steve Wilson, please. If you could step up, I have a couple of questions for you. Can I get the second microphone working? Who's on the board? There we go. Testing. Thank you. Sorry about that. Sheriff, as we talk okay, that is awfully loud. I'm sorry. This is just going to work best if we can call somebody to the stand and ask a couple of questions. We had a chance to talk just a little while ago, and your perspective is one that I feel that everybody needs, because as sheriff, you operate not only one of the most important protection characteristics of the county, one of the most important departments of the county, but also one of the parts of the county that has to spend and expend the largest amount of money. in your history, now you've worked exclusively under a sole commissioner form of government. Is there anything that you would like to add, or are there any concerns that you have as the sitting sheriff of Walker County that someone would consider, or that someone would need to consider as they decide if they want to have a sole commissioner or go to a 5-commissioner form of government? In other words, to summarize, how would this impact you as the sitting sheriff?
Well, first of all, I can only attest to the sole commissioner form of government, because that's all I've ever served with. I've served with 3 different commissioners, Buddy Chapman, Beebe Heiskell, and Shannon Whitfield. And so I don't know that I'm the one to ask, what a board of commissioners would look like for the sheriff. I don't think there's any other elected officials from county government in here. I think the best way I could answer that in favor of a sole commissioner would be, where my experience lies.
Because this is it's worked for you.
That it has worked for me because I've always had the opportunity to go to that one person and talk to that one person about whatever issue that I may have lying before me. Most of the time, it's budget stuff. At budget time, when you submit budgets and those type of things, it could be other things, like if you're didn't budget for enough cars and you need cars, or something along that line. Capital expenditures, which we've always, anything over 15,000, I've always went to one of the 3 commissioners that I serve with to get approval for that. But I want to say this, I'm 100% committed to working with, if we remain a sole commissioner, or if we remain a 5-person board of commissioner, I'm committed 100% to make it work whichever way it lands after November the 6th. I see the benefits of a board of commissioners. I can see where it would be of benefit to county, maybe not just the sheriff's office. I don't know that the change, whether we had a board or whether we stay sole, is going to impact the sheriff's office that much.
So it would be your statement to the people of Walker County, just in again, impartial summary, would be, it would be your pleasure and privilege to work with either form, and there isn't anything right now that is coming up to you as the sitting sheriff of Walker County that would give dramatic concern about the operation of your department with either form of government.
That's correctly said. While you're asking me that in my capacity as the sheriff of the county.
Yes, sir.
I understand that those people out here and the people watching at home and the people that go out and vote, they have to consider a broader spectrum of county government. Not only just the sheriff or the sheriff's office, we've got a large county government with a budget of probably 24 million, somewhere in that range. And so you, the voter, must decide, is it a one person should have the ability to maintain that and run that county government? I know Bartow County still has a sole commissioner with about 140,000 people, a population double our size. Or should we go to a board of commissioners? And I can see the benefits of both. I can see the benefits of both, and I think that's what we're here tonight, is to point out those benefits. The argument that I hear is with a sole commissioner, you go to one person, you get an answer quickly, more expedient than you would with a board of commissioners, and you have more of a dialogue one-on-one with that person. With a board of commissioners, you have maybe a little slower process, but you have more accountability to more people are accountable to the citizens of the county. And one person in this form of government cannot spend more than $25,000. So I guess the question remains, is the time right? Is our county, is the climate right? Is the makeup of our county as it grows? The geographical size of our county, 445 square miles. Is it time to hand that over from a sole commissioner to a board of commissioners? Now, for those of you that can remember back to 1940 when we switched from a board of commissioners to a sole commissioner form of government. I don't know if we have anybody in here that recalls that, unless it's Jim here. But Jim's parents would have remembered it. His parents would have remembered it. It was a very contentious debate in 1940 about why the Board of Commissioners were not doing their job, and the county elected to go back to a sole commissioner form of government. I wished I'd pulled the Walker County Messenger from that era and read you some of the stuff. I've looked at it before, but it's been a long time. But basically, just the citizens were not happy with the Board of Commissioners. And I think I know why, but I don't want to say without being 100% sure. You can research that. Go back to November of 1940 and look at those Messenger articles. So, you know, looking back, over how many years that's been, 75 plus years, and now we fast forward to today, and, you know, there's a movement, and there's going to be a question on the ballot of whether we should change back to that. Times change, people change, government changes, and, you know, maybe it is. And I guarantee you I'll be able to work with a board, or I can work with a sole commissioner.
And Sheriff,
I can see the benefits of either one.
Sheriff, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you very much. Thank you, sir. To make certain, before we go to public questions, and just a reminder, in this issue, one of the difficult things for us when we're voting on the change of a form of government like this is separating in our mind the concept that we have of the office separated from the person. Obviously, in Walker County, there have been, you know, a lot of political discussions about the individuals who have held these offices over the past several years, and that's one of the things that I believe the sheriff is touching on in terms of people being unhappy with a form of government at a particular time, but it may not have necessarily been the form of government with which they were satisfied or dissatisfied, but the people who were occupying those offices or that office at that particular time. So one of the things that, again, as an impartial bystander, I would encourage for each individual in your discussions about this matter in the community is separating the office itself from Bibi, who held the office for quite some time, from Shannon, who holds the office now, and both of them honorable individuals, but this is not a vote for or against either of them. It is a vote for a form of government. And I would like to bring George Rogers with the Democratic Party up to our podium, and genuinely appreciate you being here. The party aspect of this, I want to ask, because I'm coming in as somebody who raised his children in Catoosa County. I love Walker County very much. I have a lot of friends of mine who live here. Could you let me know, again as a bystander, is there a party component to this decision, or is this a matter that we should consider as voters in a completely nonpartisan manner?
You know, as a Democrat, I'm one of the endangered species in northwest Georgia. So, but to answer your question, in Walker County, I don't believe that this is that party lines have anything to do with this election. This is an election that I believe is for the good of the county, for all the citizens of the county, no matter what your party affiliation is. And to me, it's as a citizen of Walker County, it's the most important item on the ballot and will affect every citizen of Walker County much more so than all the rest of the issues and candidates that are going to be voted on November the 6th.
And could you give your personal encouragement, should you care, in terms of, or should you care to give your personal encouragement, how you would prefer this particular election to come out? What would you like the result to be personally, not necessarily just from a party perspective, but from a Walker County citizen perspective? What do you hope is the result of this election?
Well, I hope it passes by a large percentage, because again, I think it's the right thing for the citizens of the county.
Mr. Rogers, thank you so much. We appreciate that. This is an open forum. At this point, I would like to take a question from the crowd. Would you like to come up, or may I come to you? I can come to you, or here we go. And your name, my friend?
Janice.
And Janice, do you have a question for everyone who is here with us today, or would you like to ask one of them specifically a question?
To the gentleman from the Republican Party that spoke, I'm sorry, yes.
Mr. Cameron.
Thank you. I understand that if there's a board elected, the other four will receive $1,000 a month, but I didn't hear you say what the primary person is going to be receiving. Is it the same salary that the sole commissioner gets?
Thank you for the question. There's two different calculations. The first calculation is the commissioner would make $500 more than the highest paid elected official in the county, which I think right now is the sheriff. It is. Or if it's below $100,000, I believe it's $100,000 plus $500. They had $500 over $100,000, so that's how it would work.
So the calculation, however the dollars may work out,
Yeah.
the calculation is an amount over and above the highest elected official or highest county official or county employee?
The elected official, the highest constitutional officer.
Understood.
Yeah.
Does that satisfy that question?
Thank you.
And she would like to ask another question, if she may be so permitted.
Yes, it doesn't necessarily have to be for you if you want to sit down and relax.
Sorry.
I appreciate what the sheriff said about the ease in going to a sole commissioner for his needs, but as a citizen, with a sole commissioner, it's difficult to be heard and have requests acted upon. So I would greatly appreciate having someone that represented, my community that I could go to, and it can be discussed that way because, well, I won't say my personal reasons why, but I think that would be beneficial for the community, not just those in government who are reporting to someone, but for us to be able to get our concerns to someone who actually represents our individual community, mine being Rossville. And I certainly think that we need a system of checks and balances, and to not do that at this point with the history that's happened in our county, I think would be very naive on our point. We need a system of checks and balances in our government.
So you would make the suggestion that as a citizen, it is difficult for you to be heard because a sole commissioner form of government has such limited ability for one person to have as much time for an individual citizen. So oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think it's a desire. I just think that individual communities like Rossville versus Lafayette, I don't mean versus as in a battle, I mean, we don't have commissioner meetings in our areas, and it's difficult to get a town hall to come, like to Rossville. Everything revolves around Lafayette, and I think each community needs someone representing them to be able to convey what's happening in their particular community rather than an isolationist approach.
So it isn't just the ability of an individual citizen to communicate with the sole commissioner. You want to make sure that the needs of each part of the county are represented by somebody who lives in that part of the county. Thank you. Do you have any other questions, or can I do anything else for you? Awesome. No, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I think she could switch places and come up here if she'd like to. It'd be great.
Let's ask Ted from Dade County.
Okay.
Their style compared to what Walker County's looking at.
Okay, excellent. Now, if I could bring our friend from Dade County up, I would appreciate that very much. And I want to make sure that I have Ted Rumley. Ted Rumley from Dade County. Now, this is interesting because, as was stated prior, In looking for a model, the potential of going from a sole commissioner to having multiple commissioners, there is more than one way to do that. Could you tell us how this works in Dade County and perhaps give just a comparison to what you see in Dade County versus what other forms of government may see?
Well, in 1992, we were sole commissioner up till 92, and the people of Dade County, they decided to go to a 5-man commission. Not a county executive type commission like we are now, but a 5-man board, and that board actually appointed their chair within themselves. The reason we did that is because the county was bankrupt practically. Mm-hmm. We were on cash basis only. If you bought a load of gravel, you sent cash. It took those men, those 5 men. It was really hard for them the first year or so. They had to go out and borrow money to get out of debt, and it was really hard. But so we were that type of government, which is a 5-man with the chairman, up until 2000. It was actually let me take it back, because I was commissioner in 2000. It would have been 2004 is when it changed, and the county was tired of having managers come in and stay 6 months or a year, and kind of causing confusion, and it was just not good. And so we were averaging county managers coming in and going, and then you kept chaos in between your commissioners because of that. So anyway, they decided to go to what's called a county executive type commission. And from what I read and from what I understand, that's what you're talking about. You said he would be a chairman, and I don't even like the word executive. We didn't use that word much in Dade County. It's too, out there. But what this government is, though, is that person. He runs the day-to-day operation of the county. You've got 4 commissioners that, thank goodness, that I can depend on. If I need, whatever. I mean, I can call Robert and call any of them. They call me back. But you're responsible. That load is on your shoulder every day to operate the day-to-day operations of the county. You hire and fire everyone in the county except the county attorney and the county clerk. Of course, the sheriff's elected, so I'm talking about the employees, and that's a big task. I mean, it really it's a wearisome thing. It's 24/7. I heard someone mention a cell phone, about who's going to pay for the cell phone. That little phone out there is the best tool, if that man will use it, or lady that's elected, that you could ever have, because I live by that phone. My phone number, I give it out every time I speak. I answer my phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you don't believe me, you ask anybody in the county. And if they tell you no, they're telling the fib. My number is on that phone. If you call our office and we're closed this evening, you can call it. It'll go to an answering machine, and it'll say, "I'm sorry, Dade County Commission's closed, their office hours." But if you need to talk to someone, they give it out. I give my number out. And some people said when I first did that, how in the world can you do that? Well, our county's not as large as yours. I don't know that, we're 16, almost 17,000 people. But, when you cross that line and you're elected, that person, you need to be really careful. He needs to be sincere with what he does, and it needs to be a person that, you mentioned Democrat, Republican. Well, I'm a Republican. But, when you step across that line, you represent everybody fairly, no matter, how much money they got, no matter who they are. And you've got to do that. If not, you're not doing your job. And you can't let that head get so big that you can't do that job, It's just...
So you are the operator of Dade County, in essence, in the same form and vein as we would have, the citizens of Walker County would have. Let me ask you this, and if you have a question, because this gentleman perhaps could be one of the best to explain what it is like to be in an executive position, that name or term notwithstanding.
No, but I mean, it's what it is.
In that position with a board of commissioners, because this is the job, this is the form that they have in Dade County. Do you feel that you would be as effective or have the same level of accountability if you served as sole commissioner?
Well, to start with, I wouldn't want to serve as sole commissioner, but because to me, you need those 4 people. You need that input from every county, every end of the county, like Rossville, Lafayette. You've got those 4 sections cut up, and the way we are in the county, everyone's elected not by districts, by the whole county. Now, that's something you need to look at too, because some people agree that. I think it was a good thing, because that one commissioner from Lafayette, he's going to have as much influence on the vote as
Right.
the person in Rossville when it comes to a serious thing. And but that's whatever, however y'all want to do that. I mean, but you got to be really careful when you choose, as always, your district commissioners. But that county executive or that county chairman, I only can spend $10,000, you know, which is a lot of money to me, but I've never took that privilege. There was no need in it. I mean, and to saying I'm going to sign a check for $10,000. There may be, you know, emergency may come up. I know we had the tornadoes and all, but really and truthfully, I don't, you know, I know there needs to be a limit in case there is emergency, but to me, you know, if I've got anything going on, you know, I call my commissioners and talk to them, you know. I mean,
Do you feel like
and
the-
by law, we can do that. We can't be in the same room, three of us, but we can call and we can talk to each other, you know, and talk, you know.
Well, let me ask real quick, is there anyone here who would like to ask the commissioner a question? Absolutely.
Ted, I'd just like to ask you, how often do you experience gridlock whenever something's got to be done? How slow does it slow down the process with this type gridlock, with people having their own issues that they're concerned with? Because that's what I seem to hear from Catoosa County, Dade County. Everybody's got their own issues that they're concerned about, and it's difficult to get things passed because of that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's once you don't fit all, you know, and all communities are not the same, just like the lady was talking about Lafayette and Rossville. But you know, that's something if you're all in there for the right reason, you know, and you all have the benefit of the county, you know, that's not a problem. I mean, it's not really, you know, you don't always agree, but you know, sometimes you have to agree to disagree, I guess you might say, because you know what I may think is just the right thing to do. You know, if you just look at everything and get everybody's opinion on it, and you know, and you may go back home and you think, man, I was wrong on that. You know, I mean, what is wrong with me? You know, but as far as slowing anything down, I think you can talk to the people or talk to our other committees. It don't happen, really. I mean, and not. I mean, I guess Shannon, he has or BB and Shannon, they don't have to have that. Of course, that meetings. I'm sure they do have meetings, I guess, but they can make a decision on the spot. Now, Sheriff Wilson mentioned, you know, he's not sure. Well, I wish their sheriff would have came tonight, and he'll be the first to tell you. If he needs something, we make it happen. You know, I mean, unless it's something, if he wanted to buy a new helicopter or something, that'd be different. But you know, he is. I've been with 3 sheriffs. I've worked, you know, as from Phillip Street right on that, and we've butted heads on budget. You know, because I mean, but we always agree what we're there for. We're there to represent the people. We're a public servant, and we're not the government. I look at it, you're the government, the people are. You know, we just happen to be elected to work for you.
We have a question in this direction.
I don't mean to rattle on. I can sit down. I know the other people want to talk, but this is important. This is very important. I'm telling you, when you make this decision and you're changing, you know, it's something. You know.
Carrying on with that question, you're one of the 4.
That's right.
How's it been working in that?
Can I get to that? I can come to that with a live mic here in just a second. Let me get this gentleman's question here, and then I want to come back to the other Dade County Commissioner, if that would be all right.
Perry Lamb.
Yes, sir.
This question, thank you for coming tonight, and the other chair. And this is also a question for the Republican Party and Democrat Party. What kind of restrictions, or not restrictions, are we going to expect from our local chairman, like the young lady over here said earlier? We got to have a voice. I'm a constitutionalist, you know that. Everybody needs a voice. So how many times will these chairmen have meetings? Is there a requirement for them to have meetings? Shannon our commissioner has to have a meeting every month. Are we going to require the exact same from the local chairman, where the people can give their input? The other question that I've got is when it comes to party affiliation. We've talked about this many times. Are we going to have a Democrat and a Republican running for every chair and the chairman? Or is it just going to be nonpartisan and run as, a chairman or a commissioner?
Well, the way it's in Dade County, and then you can, I don't know how yours are structured. I know it can't be nonpartisan right now. That would have to go through legislation. Although, let me tell you something, I get booed sometimes but honestly, this position, especially this, and the sheriff, it should be nonpartisan. Let me tell you something, because whether the Republicans like it or not, when I'm doing my job, I don't really care whether you're Democrat or Republican. I really don't, unless you just up here slap him in the face or something. I don't really, because you pay taxes just like everyone, and it's just not. And as far as running, that those people will run. Just like you would as if you want to run as a Democrat or a Republican or as an independent. You run and let the people. You could wind up having 4 Democrats and a Republican as a or you could run vice versa. That's up to the people.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you very much, and thank you for being here from Dade County. I would like to call Mr. Kelly from the Tea Party, if you would not mind, to, I want to make sure that we properly and clearly answer this gentleman's question. The first part of the question, as I understand it, is in terms of, you were talking about, well, it was 2-part. Let's go to the partisan issue first, in terms of, will there be fielded in each district a Democratic candidate and a Republican candidate, or will it be strictly nonpartisan in Walker County?
This would be, as I understand it, the elections are going to function as they always have in Georgia currently. We're going to have partisan elections. You'll be running as a Democrat or Republican or any other party affiliation, as well as an independent. They'll be partisan at this point, unless that changes later.
So the positions, just so we clarify, because there's no preference given here, it's just a matter of this statute or this particular election, if it passes, these will be partisan elections. Absolutely. For commissioners. Now, the first part of the gentleman's question, which is also extremely important, regarding the requirement for public meetings, will there be any difference in terms of the regularity or the topic material, or how what can the citizens of Walker County expect from a Board of Commissioners in terms of their schedule for being able to sit in on public meetings?
As I understand it, that's not going to really change, because your chairman of the board is going to function very much like a sole commissioner does today. It's just the board is going to provide oversight. Now, each of one of those individual district commissioners certainly could hold meetings in their districts when they wanted to.
But are they going to have a voice then, like she was saying, or many people always brought this issue up. How are they going to, do they still now have to go to the commissioner meetings, someone from Lafayette or someone from Chickamauga, to have their issue brought in? Shouldn't they go to their representative?
Well, they can certainly go to their representative. They can give them a call. They can use that cell phone like he's talking about. They can request a meeting. But Walker County is a very big county. That's what everybody needs to understand here. Walker County is very large. It takes about an hour to drive from one end of Walker County to the other. I know in Dade County, everyone is elected at large. I feel like having the 4 districts and being elected from that district is very important. The reason why, in my opinion, is Dade County is about the 3rd the size of Walker County geographically and population-wise. So if you are in Rossville and you're running for that district seat, how can someone in Archie really understand your issues and your concerns in Walker County or in Rossville or in that district? And it would be much more expensive to run at large like that. The other reason we decided to do it that way is you can be running in the Rossville district. Lafayette, Chickamauga, Rock Spring, they can vote against you and you can lose. In other words, if the people outside your district vote against you, even while the people inside your district vote for you, you can still lose that seat. And we feel very passionate about each district needs to have a representative from that particular area, from that particular district. I hope that answered your question. Maybe.
And I would like to ask you this. Considering the size of Walker County and considering the geographic size and the population of Walker County, would you submit that it is too much to expect for one person to be able to manage all of that alone? comparing to the fact that Bartow County, which is even larger, still maintains a sole commissioner form of government?
Well, let's look at the facts. Georgia is the only state in the entire United States that still has sole commission government. And in the state of Georgia, we have 159 counties. I think there's 8 counties or maybe 7 counties left that still has a sole commissioner form of government. In my opinion, the sole commission is an antiquated type government in today's times. And this is about accountability. This is about transparency. We've had numerous boondoggles in Walker County in recent years financially, Hutchinson Hospital, Mountain Cove Farms, I could go on and on. We need to have that oversight. No one person ought to be able to spend millions of dollars without having some kind of accountability from some type of board.
Absolutely, please.
Okay. Perry, in the law, there's a part of the law says the board has to have at least 2 meetings a month. That's the minimum they can have. And also, there will be a vice chairperson elected. Right now in Walker County, if something were to happen to the commissioner, we think that the probate judge would take over, but we really don't know. So because Commissioner High School was out for months and months and months, and no one, we didn't know who was doing what. Under this, if the chairman gets sick, has an automobile accident or something, there will be a vice chairperson to take over, either temporarily until that person comes back, or in the case that there needs to be an election, whatever. There is a process where there's going to be somebody there to back that person up. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you so much. I would like to, if you would not mind, Mr. Goff, could you hop up and chat with us just for a second?
I'll get up. I can't hop.
I appreciate that very much. Mr. Goff, as a commissioner in Dade County, what do you believe is at stake during this vote for the people of Walker County? In other words, to me as an impartial party, I have tried to, as moderator, just simply state, make sure when you vote that we separate the personalities involved from the structure of government upon which we are actually voting. So I will ask you, as somebody who serves as a commissioner in a neighboring county, what other types of issues are at stake when we go in and vote for our form of commissioner, our form of government?
Well, I've said this all along. If this passes, and I know having run in Walker County for state representative a few years ago, I was asked this question many times, which had nothing to do. It does come down to local legislation and an act in the legislature. But why can we not have a board? And then, of course, the straw poll came and proved it by a large majority. That's what people all over the county want. Now, so assuming that it does pass and you change, if you don't pass, you're where you are. And as the sheriff said, people should be willing to work with Mr. Whitfield or whoever follows him. But the next thing to do once you go to that form of government, because you are going to have whoever wants to run. It's whoever comes in and qualifies has the opportunity to run. 2 things I want to bring out. First of all, is when we saluted the flag, we said, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to what? The republic for which it stands. That means that we get to elect those that govern us. We get to go out, and it's in, as Ted Rumley said, you're the government. We're all the government. But what you have to do is you have to realize now we've elected them and we've got to let them govern. They can't govern with 10,000 people pulling it at their shirt sleeves, but they do have that voice within that community, within that district. Secondly is when people come out and do run, you better get to know them, because the most important part of it is 5 people that will work together for the good of the community, the good of the county. You don't want anybody with an axe to grind. And I'm there. I heard, the first thing I heard when I was going to run, well, I hope you can straighten that. I won't say sheriff. I'll use somebody else, that court clerk out. I hope you can do that. And when I got, and I know probably all of you heard, ACCG is the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. And the first thing I remember, because when you get elected, it is mandatory you go to that newly elected commissioners conference. And the first thing that they did was put a lawyer on the stage just like this. He said, I'm here to tell you how to stay out of court with your constitutional officers. But really, being serious, that's what there'll be some that wants to straighten somebody out. But those are elected constitutional officers. And you know, Sheriff mentioned the budget. That's where your commission comes in. But you've got 10 ears and 10 eyes, and you've got feet and hands that are going out and working on that, and more people listening to those requests. And somebody may have an idea that somebody else didn't have. So I think the biggest thing is when those people begin to run from each community is you get to know them people and ask them the hard questions and ask them, are they going to try to work with each other? You're going to be, Ted Romney and I have not always agreed, but we don't take it to the public. We're not trying to sell papers, and we're not trying to draw crowds to a commission meeting. And so that is one of the most important things is those people that are going to run, ask them the questions, the hard questions. Are you going to try to work with the other commissioners for the good of the entire county? Because what I tell everybody this, I'm District 3 Commissioner. That is from the center of Trenton to the Alabama line at Rising Pond. But I am a county commissioner. I'm there to do, and my vote is as important as his. And you do have to have a quorum of commissioners to pass anything. So that's the way I look at it. It's important who you get to do those other jobs, not just your executive.
And we genuinely appreciate your expertise. Thank you. And thank you. Hello there. And your name?
Chelsea.
And Chelsea, what would you like to ask and of whom?
Mr. Goff, as a district commissioner, how often do you meet with or speak with the constituents within your district?
Well, that is a good question because a lot of those people I go to church with, I meet them in the grocery stores, and I get phone calls. I don't get a lot of phone calls from people outside, but I'm just like Mr. Romney. I give my phone number and I know that we can be reached. But that is another important part of having it is you've got people that you're going to see them in the grocery stores and you're going to see them at Fred's and you're going to see them at church. You're going to see them at football games and everything. And it gives you that opportunity to go up and talk to them. And so I would say a lot, but not by any type of design. It's just that I'm there.
Because Walker County would be essentially designing this system from scratch, would you recommend some type of regimented system where the newly seated commissioners in their respective districts did have regular specific district meetings that were also required?
It is beneficial if you can get them together and get people to come to, say, Rossville or
a meeting like this.
Yeah. like this, town hall meetings, call them what you want. We don't have many of them, but there again, we're a third the size of Walker County, and we're a fourth of the population in Walker County, so that there is a difference, but yes.
And one last question. What is your other job to supplement your income? And have any of your county district commissioners or anyone else that you've talked to had any trouble finding those part-time jobs that still allow you to have your phone on you 24/7 and to be able to leave to go meet with someone or step into a meeting or anything you needed to do for the county, including reading and research and staying up to date on everything to make sure that you're doing the best that you can? Has there been any trouble trying to find that job that will supplement the income and allow you the freedom to do what you need to?
That's a good question, and it goes back to, not that you want to elect all retired people. You may elect someone that runs a business that's able to get away from it. I happen to be retired when I run. I worked for United Parcel Service for 30 years, and I retired. And as a part-time commissioner, that's part of what I ran on. And Mr. Romney will tell you, I'm in the office almost every day. A few days go by that I don't stay all day, but I'm in there because I have the opportunity to, and I can go for the training. I don't have to ask off from work, and I don't have to have a supplemental job. Actually, my supplemental job, I guess you would say, is being on that commissioner.
So you'd say the people of Dade County are getting the full value out of you?
I had surgery on this shoulder, and I can't pat my back, but I can do this. No, but
modest, too.
Yes, very modest.
And
But
yes,
no,
sir.
That was something that I wanted to do.
This gentleman has a question, and who would you like to ask?
My name's Randall Pittman. I guess any of these guys up there can answer this. You talk about qualifying. What does it take to qualify? Say you're not a Democrat, you're not a Republican. You want to qualify as an independent. What does that qualify? I remember when Mr. Lamb went to run for commissioner, he had to jump through hoops to get on the ballot. My question is, what is it going to take for somebody who's not committed to a party to run? Say, you hear about the good old boy system in Walker County all the time. So if just the average Joe wanted to run, what will it take for him to run?
Would this be a question that, that perhaps Mr. Cameron would care to field in terms of how this particular issue of an independent who wanted to run for one of these new offices, could they?
First of all, Perry did a great job with this, but Perry, you had to get how many?
I had to get, so I've kind of got an idea how it might work. I had to get 5% of the registered voters. The registered voters.
And in Walker County, and if 5% of the registered voters, there's about 32,000 registered voters in Walker County, Dean. Is that about right? About 32. Yeah. Plus, you had to get extras in case some of the signatures weren't validated, so that's always a problem.
That if someone wanted to do that on an independent basis,
Those current rules still apply. They still apply.
they would still apply probably to that district.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it would be to the district.
I think the district. Yeah, and there's nothing specific in the law about independents running, but I believe it's exactly what.
And we have a couple of questions from this row. If you would not care to, when you are complete, to pass it on down, if each of you could just simply state your name, what part of the county you're from, and who you would like to address, I would appreciate it very much.
Address the people. I'm Paul Page. Used to be in county and Dade, and I got two answers. One of you talked about being a district, and the other saying at large. I don't know which you are today.
No, all commissioners and myself are at large.
Everyone is at large. Okay, I think she was misunderstood.
The biggest, largest, Walker is, after I sit here and think about it, it would be probably better to actually have them elected as a district. I don't know, because Walker is a bit, we only have 16,500 people
Right.
in our whole county, and use Walker County.
But Mr. Goff was talking about his district was from the city limits south, and that isn't true, I don't think, is it?
Yes.
That is a district.
Lookout Mountain is a district, District 4. And from the Tennessee line at Tipton to the Bank of Dade in Trenton is a district in the valley, and District 1. I'm District 3 from that point to the Alabama line, and Sand Mountain is District 2, the whole mountain. And it is, as was stated earlier, that's how it works out, not geographically. It works out good for us, but it's based on the citizens who live in those, it's based on the...
Okay, so it is a district, not at large.
And what happened some years ago, we've all seen change. We remember back when the grand juries appointed our school board members. Okay? Then we went away from that to electing our school board. We used to hire a superintendent, now the school board hires the superintendent. But what happened in Dade County was our school board was voted for at large. People would ask me, why can I only vote for you for the commission, but I get to vote for all 5 school board members? And that's really what drove the at-large in Dade County, is if they had ever been made the same, then it would have probably stayed that way, but they just wanted, and so we did the same thing there. Some people got together and put a straw poll on, should district, all the commissioners be elected at large. So you represent the whole county, but you must live in the district that I serve. In District 3, I have to live there. I can't move. If I move outside of it, I have to resign.
But you're voted on at large.
I'm voted on
Okay.
at large, yes.
Another thing, I know y'all want to go, but this is something, I keep sitting here thinking, an important thing that, as a county chairman executive, and I'm not read how you got it written, but you need to really be careful about how it's worded, because there's only like 2 counties in the state of Georgia that have the county executive type government, that person runs the day-to-day operation. Well, the difference in Dade County and DeKalb County, Georgia, which DeKalb County is much, much bigger, That county executive has veto power over his commissioners. Yeah, that means, you know, and I think he's got 12 commissioners or 10 or whatever. You know, and now you need to really, because he beats the paper purpose so much, because if you notice that guy is stayed in jail a lot, you know, I mean, he's been prosecuted. Yeah, I mean, he really has the power. I mean, he abused his power. And so there's little things that you really need to, you know, and I'm sure it's not in there, but it's something to think about.
We had a requested clarification from the back of the room regarding the requirements, what it actually takes to run for one of the commission offices. In other words, what is the political requirement, as I understand it, what is the general qualification of a prospective candidate for one of these new Walker County offices, should they materialize?
For the position of chairperson of the county, they have to live within the county for 12 months, and they have to be at least 25 years of age. For the the district commissioners, they have to be at least 18 years of age and lived in their district for 12 months in a row. And the reason the 18 years thing came up with Steve Tarvin. He said, if you're old enough to fight for our country, you're old enough to vote, you should be old enough to run for a district commission seat. But they wanted somebody a little bit older. 25 is getting up there. But they wanted somebody at least 25 to run for that. But they have to live within their district, or for the chairperson, they have to live in the county for 12 continuous months.
So essentially, you have an age of majority and residency requirement. Does that satisfy your need? Excellent. Thank you so much. Is there a qualifying fee?
Yes. I believe it's about 3% of that.
3% it is. Yeah, 3% of the salary.
I'm not sure I understood the question.
I pay $118 as a district commissioner to run.
What we understand is 3% of the salary for that job.
Right.
3% on the 12,000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got it. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. And back here we go. And your name, sir?
Jim Pope.
And who would you like to address?
Well, I'm not sure, but let me make a comment, then I might ask anybody up there. One of my concerns about the sole commissioner is, of course, it's just one person. And once you elect that one person, like Dean said up there, they have unlimited power about borrowing money. Just with a signature, they can run Walker County millions in debt. But the one concern is when we get some age on us, I see some gray hair up there and that kind of thing, but maybe lacking hair. Sometimes dementia, Alzheimer's starts setting in on people, and it comes on gradually. And at first you don't know too much about it, and then it just gets worse and worse. What if the now if you had a board of commissioners, you'd have check and balances here. But with a sole commissioner, if they did become gradually unfit, how would you go about getting our county in control or getting that commissioner out?
So he's making it a question of incapacity. So in a sole commissioner form of government, if there is a question of capacity and fitness for service, would anybody care to field that? Go right ahead, Mr. Cameron.
Okay, yeah, you helped me. What was the question?
Yeah, exactly.
With the sole commissioner form of government, our understanding, because we looked into this over time, Mr. Pope, is that you had to go to the clerk of the Superior Court, and you'd have to impanel a grand jury, I believe, at least one grand jury, and there's one grand jury, and if they said, yeah, we believe what you're saying is true, then it would go to another grand jury. They'd have to impanel another grand jury before you could even begin the process of taking them out of office. And I understand, too, because when we talked to Ted in December of 16. You talked also about home rule laws in Georgia.
That's what
Okay, go ahead.
Because, you know, dementia can happen to the county executive too.
And again, we're answering strictly on the mechanism of capacity and incapacity of a sole commissioner.
And if that happens with your 4-1 or your 5-man commission county executive, and say that county executive is actually out of line, you know, I mean, because you're elected, now you got it for 4 years unless he breaks the law. You know, I mean, he's got to commit a crime, almost get him out. And just say he starts slacking on his job, say this, you know, and he's spending those $10,000 maybe, but he buys an airplane and he writes $10,000 checks for, you know, in high school. That can happen. I mean, so there's a thing called home rule, and that brings your full commissioners come in, and you know you realize, hey, this guy's out of control. What are we going to do? Well, they can strip him from all of his powers. They can strip him from finding a check because it's happened in Dade County Treasury one time, and he can come to work, go to work, but as far as having any power, he goes through the motions. So that's a good thing. That's where you got that person, just in case you mess up, you know, because once you get them in the office, whether it's sole commissioner or that county executive, you got to go through an act of Congress almost to get them actually even on the impeachment removal. You know, so.
We're going to, and thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We're going to a couple more questions. Anybody else would like to raise their hand? I'll give you another chance, and then we're going to go exclusively at this time to individuals who have not had the opportunity to ask a question.
Yes, my name's William Larry Rose Jr. You know, you may have hit on it some, and you may have answered it, and I'm not real positive, but Mr. Lamb brought it up, I think, on the operations of this type of government, if it did pass, and I guess that'll be up to the people. The gentleman in the blue shirt made a mention about how more than 3 couldn't be in a room. The gentleman in the red, darker shirt right here made a mention about how many it took, and then, most importantly, Mr. Kelly's comment on transparency. So this form of this board, if it does pass, and we do acquire it, and we do have it now, is it going to have to follow these sunshine laws or open meeting laws, or is this going to be behind closed door meetings?
Strictly the sunshine law, it comes under our board anyway, and I'm sure that it stands as a law. And but you, even in a restaurant or anywhere, you know, you're not supposed to have 3 members of that board sit at the same table. Now, they have lessened that a little bit in the last couple of years. Like if you go to a meeting and you're traveling a van, you know, it's something that, you know, they have. You know, you're still supposed to notify your press and give them a chance to be with you or whatever. You know, it's really strict. I don't know really what the punishment is. I know I'm not really been involved in any violations of that, but I know it's real strict as far as if you do that.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. So, but I did have one more question, if I may. Is that possible? I guess this may be for the group that did the study that went to, say, Dade County or studied other counties or other areas and stuff like that. And then I heard a mention of how much the man in charge is going to be paid, and then how each of the elected officials is going to be paid. Maybe the magic question, where's this money come from? I mean, I hate to coin a phrase, but, a friend once in Rossville made a comment that anybody can raise taxes to pay for something. I mean, it's just recently here in Rossville here, we had a tax increase, okay? They said they couldn't find anything in the agenda and their budget to cut yet, so they just raised the taxes to pay for something. So has there been a study of where this money comes from, or are we just going to have to be, taxed out again?
Actually, that would not be good decorum to do that. If I could grab the microphone. If you would please. Thank you.
I get asked this question all the time. First of all, our budget, I think, is about $23 or $24 million, so the $50,000 a year that we're going to pay for the 4 additional commissioners is a drop in the bucket. But my argument would be this. This is going to be much less expensive than our sole commissioner has been. Our sole commissioner for the last few years has cost us millions of dollars. It's going to take us decades to pay. that you and I are feeling the hit on right now.
Now, could I just, again, from a decorum perspective, we are having an election based upon a form of government, and I am of the understanding that we are separating that from the individuals who are serving in the office and have served in the office. I'm just saying that as a moderator, without Miss High School in the room, that perhaps it would not be the most appropriate time to have the discussion on past expenditures.
Well, can I respond to that too?
Certainly,
also?
absolutely.
Well, here's the way I look at it. I hope Shannon Whitfield's the best commissioner we ever have. I hope he is. And what's happened in the past is the past. But the reason why I'm bringing these things up, if we don't, the past can be repeated in the future. And we have to understand that when a sole commissioner has this kind of power to spend these kind of money, and there is no checks and balances, then you open the door for that to happen again. So when someone brings up how much is this going to cost, my response is we've already paid the price for it many times over, millions of dollars in past ways that monies have been spent, and that could happen again in the future.
So the summary argument would be separate from the individuals who are actually in the office. The summary argument would be the difficulty of the county to assure in a sole commissioner form of government the quality of the individual over time would remain consistent term to term to term.
Well, that's exactly right. But like I said, but you can't point out these problems sometimes without, unfortunately, have to bring up things that's happened in the past.
Understood.
I don't mean to pick on B.B. Haskell, but these things are happening. They're a matter of record. So, and we have to look at those and hopefully learn our lesson as we move into the future.
Thank you, sir. And your question?
A couple things. And this is to Mr. Rumley and Mr. Goff, I guess, basically. One of the things that hit me early on was one night I was watching the commissioner on the Judy Show. And this was early on in his initial term, and he was getting TANs to pay the payroll, basically. And he made the comment, and it just hit me that he said he had to be at the Bank of Lafayette by 4 o'clock. And if he hadn't have made that 4 o'clock, he wouldn't have got that TANs money, and we wouldn't have had payroll Friday, which was 2 days away. He said, I'm glad I didn't get in a car wreck. I guess my question to you, as large as our county is, and as many things as all the groups have, and the representation that all of our county needs, is it possible that one man can cover this much area, this many people adequately? And if Mr. Rumley had got in a car wreck, or he was ill or sick, could Mr. Goff or one of your other members of the commission, would they be trained and up to speed that they could sit in or stand in for you and either represent your county or take over and sign documentation? In our case, we would have not got the TANs without one man. And that's a scary thought if your whole county is running on one man being there and his health is good and he doesn't have any accidents. Can you address that as to how you see that for either one of you?
Yeah, well, Robert would perfectly, I mean, if I fell over today, I mean, he could step right in my shoes and go right on until the next election, the next person is appointed. Also, our county clerk, now that's something that's really critical with the sole commissioner. He should have that county clerk, I guess you could call it that in this county, but anyway, he would have, just like you're talking about, if he didn't make payroll, he would have made that draw, he would make payroll. Well, you should have that county clerk to have certain authority, you know, there under a sole commissioner. I don't have the record with my sole commissioner, but I know where we are. There's no one monkey don't run the show, and that's another 5 person. And if something happened to both of us, our county clerk and another commissioner could keep the thing going right. You know, that's and what Shannon was talking about. I guess that's why after he took office, is that right? And because you know, I know all of you know because you've had the tax increases, you've seen the hospital thing and all that. You know, y'all really were in really financially bad. If your T-SPLOST hadn't passed, which I failed, but if your T-SPLOST hadn't passed, you know, there's a chance you've been around on the verge of bankruptcy. I mean, this county, if you call it that county, because it was that critical, you know, that's really, you know, and thank goodness it did pass because it's, you know. And Shannon, I've talked to him a lot, you know, since he's been in there, and you know, like him or not, and I guess he did. I mean, he stepped in on the worst hornet's nest I could ever imagine anybody did. And I, you know, I'm not for raising taxes or anything, but I don't know really what else, you know, he could have done at the time. I've not kept up with it in the last 6 years.
Okay, again, if you would not mind separating the personalities from the structure of government. Has anybody not had the opportunity to ask a question yet? Because we're going to wrap up on time. I will get to you and you and you, and then I do want to, before we have our final questions, the individuals who have come here tonight of their own volition, on their own time, have given us an extraordinary view into their jobs in Dade County, their positions politically, their job as sheriff. Could we have a round of applause for all of them? Representing the Democratic Party, George Rogers. Mr. Kelly of the Tea Party. Mr. Cameron, our GOP chairman. Steve Wilson, sitting sheriff of Walker County. Ted Rumley, the Dade County chairman. Vice Chairman Robert Goff. These individuals have just absolutely been wonderful and honorable this evening. If those three of you could raise your hand, exclusively individuals who have not yet asked a question, I'm going to get around to you real quick. But before I do, because I had to stop you a minute ago, you had another question, I believe.
Yes, well, when the question was asked about where the money's coming from, I inquired as to how much our sole commissioner was making and received in writing from Joe Legee that he makes $176,000 a year. So if the head commissioner, for lack of a better term, is going to get $100,000 with $500 over that, plus the $50,000, it's still less than what we're paying a sole commissioner. But I do have
I think in general it was established that the overall difference in cost versus budget is relatively negligible. I think that was the argument that was made. Okay, and did I owe you a question? And your name?
My name's Nadine, and I live in Flintstone.
Well, Nadine, it is a pleasure to meet you. And your question, my friend?
What happens if this passes and one of the person that is elected decides he wants to resign, or heaven forbid he dies? How do you appoint somebody from, if it's in my district, do you appoint somebody in my district to replace the fella? Or is there another election?
So once again, we have a question of incapacity or death of a sitting elected commissioner.
I believe the regulation, the local act says that if, say, for example, the chairperson resigns or dies or whatever, if it's over 180 days, the vice chairman will serve until a special election is called. But if it's under 180 days left in that term, the vice chair will serve until the general election is held to do that. With the commissioners, it's a little different. I believe if it's over 180 days, they have election.
Is this established?
They have a special
I'm sorry.
election, and if it's under 180 days, the commission themselves appoint somebody to fill out that term.
So is this established? Because I was walking throughout the room. Could we clarify that this would follow a local statute in terms of succession, or would it follow Georgia's statute?
It follows the law, the local act that was passed. And let me give one other thing. For information on this, there is a Facebook page called Walker County Board of Commissioners 2018 that Dale Paladak here developed. Has all kinds of information, questions and answers, has maps and everything. So you can go to that tonight and look at that, and you can get a lot of information, a lot of accurate information about this whole process.
We have two
Same
final.
Walker County also.
We have two final questions. And your name, sir?
Hi. I'm Alan. My wife Tina and our son Will lives in Wallaceville. And let me just kind of hit on all the topics I heard tonight. Perry Lamb. And this is, I guess this is a plug for Will, but he is standing on the ballot here in a few weeks. I pulled the numbers. It's up to 41,000 registered voters. So good job back then. I imagine if someone wanted to be, independent these days. Steve, Sheriff Wilson, believe it or not, back in college, I got assigned a project to determine why in the 40s Walker County went from a multi-member board to a single-member board. Yeah, I know. I'm the nerd in the room. Commissioner Parrish, staff would just, they were beside themselves because I would come and read the minutes. And I would read the messengers. And I could probably take 30 minutes, which I'm not. But in a nutshell, if you recall, back during that time, everyone worked in a farm. And the people did not have the gratification of instant communication as we have today. And so the consensus, from my opinion, this is not a political opinion, of reading is the fact that they felt disconnected. And that's why they went to a sole commissioner back then. Now today we have, of course, instant, I could be YouTubed right now and wouldn't know it. And for Mr. Goff and Representative Deffenbaugh, I actually ran also with these gentlemen for state representative. And let me tell you, bottom line, why I feel a multi-member board in Walker County will be more successful, with all respect to my neighbors from Dade County today. And it's been touched on several times. And I'm getting the 30-second cue for Mr. Walker, and I'll be quick, is the fact that in Dade, it's at large. It's just, you qualify where you live, but it's still at large. In Walker County, it's going to be you qualify where you live, and people that live with you, your friends, neighbors, and people you work with, worship with, will be voting on you. And in today's time, it's all about access. And sure, Mr. Whitfield took on a, well, I won't go there, but if we do go with this multi-member board, we'll have more it's just a church thing, but we'll have more voices in the chorus. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And we have one final question, and again, we have had absolutely the best panel that we could have hoped for this topic material, and just simply on, I think, everybody's behalf, we genuinely appreciate. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and go with your question now, sir.
Well, I really don't have a question, other than I'm impressed that so many people have come out. Most of us, probably 80% of us here, all know each other. Media, former media, politicians, supporters of this, which is good, that's fine. Now, get out and spread the word. If somebody's against it, by all means, hey, yeah, I've got the button, I'm for it. I worked with Dr. Shaw, who is, he's under the weather tonight. I hoped he would come. But Dr. Shaw, he was kind of Walker County's original Trump, trying to drain the swamp. But he would be proud, I think, of this moment that we are going forward. I predict it'll pass. 65, 75%. At least I hope and pray that it does. But we're doing the right thing. We're talking to one another. We're starting to consider, who are we going to get in our communities? Who's going to be the chairperson in our communities? And we need to make those judgments, because just one brief thing that I think Paul would have said, and it's a philosophical note that, okay, efficiency. Well, money's going to be more efficient because people are arguing they're not going to be spending as fast, and they're going to have more eyes. I do not know all there is to know about everything. No one does. We need more people to speak and then tell us, well, do you realize this bolt won't fit, whatever. You say, well, efficiency. One person. Okay. Well, then let's eliminate our state reps. Let's eliminate our senators. Let's eliminate our governor. Let's just have a president. I don't think that's what the founders would have wanted. And I think we're proving that the idea still works. So get out, spread the word. As I believe Sheriff Wilson said, go get your 10 and multiply the 10. And let's continue on. And I was just wanting to do that because, like I said, I had to speak for Paul. Thanks.
And thank you, sir. And Sheriff Wilson has pointed out another individual who has been waiting, and this will be our final question for the evening. Sir, and your name?
Could I go up here?
You absolutely may, of course.
My name is Ray C. Burnfin, and I have more questions that can be written on an index card. And I don't have much time. I know you're tired and want to go to bed. I have a speech instead of a question. If you'd have time to listen to me, I think it's very important. We have other deeper and greater issues than just our form of government.
Okay, but sir, I have to...
Yes, sir, I understand. I just want to make a little brief introduction of who I am and what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be hitting the road as an inspirational speaker.
Okay, sir, this is not the, Mr. Burnfin,
Yes,
this
sir,
is
all
not,
right,
this is
thank
not the appropriate time or place for that.
Okay, you don't want to hear politics.
No, sir, we are here for a specific purpose, and I was asked to moderate that purpose.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir,
But we
thank
have
you.
another election coming this fall.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of Walker County, again, a round of applause for those of us, for those who have come to join us. We appreciate our political figures. We appreciate Sheriff Wilson. And most of all, I believe that I can speak for them. The level of turnout is extremely appreciated by all involved. Have a safe trip home, and thanks for being part of this evening.